Alcor is pleased to welcome you all to today's webinar. Founded in 2008 and headquartered in California, Alcor Solutions is a global cloud advisory and implementation services company serving clients in multiple geographies including North America, Europe, Japan, and India. Our consultants provide advice to leading businesses on cloud platforms, architecture, enterprise service management, and integrating IT service delivery. Our clients include global Fortune 500 as well as leading organizations in multiple industry verticals. We partner with Servicenow, Microsoft, Bomgar, Salesforce, FireEye, Dynatrace, and MuleSoft. Our ongoing webinar series is designed to inform, enlighten, and start discussions within your own organizations. If you require any additional information after listening to today's webinar, please reach out to us through our website, www.alcortech.com. Today's webinar is also on social media. You can follow, comment, and get regular updates for today's webinar with the hashtag AlcorWebinar. That's hashtag or number sign ALCORWEBINAR. We have time reserved at the end of the webinar for Q&A, so please feel free to type any questions into the questions section. Today's webinar topic is how ITOM is changing the way organizations work, presented by Robert Mandelbaum. Robert is Alcor's Senior Manager, Technical Consulting, and has over 20 years of IT experience that includes physical plant, network engineering, NetWare, Microsoft, and Cisco. Robert's ITOM career started in 1998 when he joined IBM Tivoli. Since then, he has worked with both CA and BMC. Robert's customers have been in the automotive, banking, entertainment, and retail industries, as well as multiple levels of government agencies. He currently is responsible for Alcor's ITOM practice, which includes Servicenow, as well as a variety of other ITOM technologies. I will now turn the webinar over to Robert. And Robert, you might be on mute. Yeah, Robert, you are on mute, sir. All right, so on a Wednesday, we've got a little bit of technical issues. We'll get this sorted out here real quick. All right, we will get going here in just a second. Our apologies, everybody. We will get this corrected just in a minute here. Oh, there we go. Robert. Nope. There we go. Robert, can we hear you?
How about now? Can you
hear me? There we go.
Oh, yes, modern technology.
We are back in business. Again, sorry everybody for the delay. Robert, take it away.
Yeah, so I guess if we actually were using ITOM and monitoring our phone system, we might have seen that coming. Had to tie it in somehow. Sorry for the delay. Thanks for joining us. You've been staring at the slide for 5 minutes, so I think you got it figured out that the point of the slide is that Alcor has expertise in all these various areas within the ServiceNow platform. I'm going to move off of it so you're not going to be stuck looking at it any longer. Today's conversation is going to be focused on the term we use, obviously you know, is ITOM, which stands for IT Operations Management. This is a multi-part webinar series, so today we're going to focus on the 3 pieces you see. We're going to talk about discovery, service mapping, and event management. Please note this is going to be high level. If anybody wants to dig deeper, you'll see my name and number at the end of the presentation, or you can reach us through the website like was stated at the beginning. So the first thing I want to go over is why should you care? You can see in this slide all these different reports of outages. Outages cost all of us, even phone outages, a lot of money, right? There's a reason to keep all these business services alive that your companies rely on, and I think all of you know the cost risk of those services not being around. So that's what this whole thing is about. So what's ITOM? A very simplistic view that I like to use an analogy is it's plumbing, right? It's the plumbing that feeds in and out of your business service management, right? It's all that infrastructure underneath, and it's all the automated action you can take based on the information coming out of that infrastructure. And I want to go on record as saying it's not a silver bullet. You don't just get a piece of software, implement a technology, and it fixes all your problems. What we're really doing at the core is automating processes. And you can automate a bad process. So what you really need is the people that know what needs to be done, the processes in place and designed correctly, and then use the technology to enable those processes. And what's the value of all this, or kind of what's the promise of ITOM? What we're all trying to do is increase business service availability so that we can make money, obtain our service level agreements, cross-organizational barriers. Well, we all know that in our company we've got a server group, and we've got a network group, and we've got a cloud group, and we've got an application for this, an application for that. All of these things at the end of the day become business services, so you need to cross those barriers in order to keep those services alive. And when you do this, you want to implement best practices. And of course, you've got to do all this and lower your cost of ownership. If you throw more people at it to take care of all these things in the top bullets, it's going to cost you more money. So what automation is going to do, and what by automating your operations is going to do, is deliver those service levels while lowering your cost of ownership. So what you're looking at, I'm sure you've all seen this slide, is the ServiceNow maturity model. And again, what we're going to talk about today is the phase 1 and the phase 2. So the discovery, the mapping, that gets you visibility into your environment. The next phase is to put event management in there, and it gives you your availability. So let's start with discovery. Why do I want to do discovery? I know to some people it's obvious, but we're just going to level set here. First is asset management. What do I have? Where is it? What software do I have? Where is it running? So these are just core things. But as you start developing and getting more mature, you want to start tying all this information into outage impact. How do I prioritize resources? When do I make changes? How do I build change windows? These are all things that come out of knowing what you have. But we need to organize that in a way that makes sense. So let's look at mapping. First of all, what's a service map? A service map is a grouping of resources that you can get through discovery or manually inputting that build a service that is delivered to your customers, whether those are internal customers or external customers. And you might say, well, I get that right away when I discover. Well, you really don't, because what happens with discovery is it goes out and finds everything. And again, we said we've got silos. So the server group says, yeah, I'm looking at all my stuff, it's good. The application group, storage, you get it. You see this picture. But the consumer, all they know is my portal's down, I can't transfer funds, I can't pay my employees, I can't send email. So gapping that view or that knowledge actually that's gained from organizing all these objects in your environment in a logical way allows you to get a vision of what those things do and how they interact. So here's a graphical representation of different types of discovery, right? So you've got what's called horizontal discovery. I go out and I find everything. So within ServiceNow, once you do that, you actually do get some mapping, which is what you see in the middle. And it's great. I can see physically and up at the application layer what my connectivity is. I can actually see interdependencies. But what I don't see is a filtered view strictly of that service. So it makes it hard to understand if something is out, what's really impacting me. So what a map does is undo all those things I just mentioned. If you map, you understand across the silos. It's accurate because it's scheduled to update. If you do this manually, it's going to take you forever. Service mapping covers all kinds of applications. It's virtual, it's physical, all your databases. You use something called patterns to discover these things. And the only reason I mention that is it's not hard set. You can go in and create your own patterns if you have something proprietary that we don't understand. And just here's a screenshot of it. So this is what a service map looks like once you've drilled into it. And I want you to take note that you've got dependencies and you've got different colors of severity of outages. So the question is, how did that information get there? I've got a map. How does it know I've got an outage? And that's the next piece we'll talk about, which is event management. So here's a common practice, and I know I talk to a lot of customers, and I've seen this over the years over and over again. We have an outage. I'm going to give that a minute to draw, make sure everybody can see it. A bunch of people call the help desk. Help desk opens a ticket, and here's the fun part. They call everybody and their brother and say, we've got an outage. So I've seen some of the biggest companies in the world spending day after day after day in war rooms. So this is not an efficient way to manage your environment. It's not an efficient way to get things back up, and it's far from an efficient way to manage your SLAs. So let's take a look at doing it a little differently. You see I've got a service map, the same one you just saw. What if we were to get an event and it actually was applied to the object in the CI, or the CI in the CMDB that you're viewing, and you could say, wow, I see where that outage is. Now all of a sudden you have clarity and visibility into what's going on in your environment. So what does that deliver? I mean, I know it's obvious, but I'm going to say it. I can diagnose faster. I can get things back up and running faster. And I can prioritize my resources. If something's down that's not important, it's not affecting a service, I push that down and I use my resources to fix whatever is more important to the business. At the highest level, above those maps, is something called a heat map. So this is something where, say you have a knock and you put it up on the wall, and in a very quick view I can see the different business services within my environment, and I can see their status. I've got red. Does that immediately mean it's important? Well, it might not. It just depends on the priority of that actual service. So again, this allows me to prioritize how I go after things, how I fix things. Maybe it can wait till the end of the week. Maybe there's something more important that needs to be fixed before it. So this is all about understanding what I have, understanding its value to the business, understanding what other pieces and parts of those other services are impacted by outages, and then making decisions on how to go fix things. And oh, by the way, we're going to track all this from an SLA level. So where does Alcor come in? Right? You sit here and you're looking at it and you're saying, yeah, that's the same thing I heard from ServiceNow about 15 times. So first of all, I'm going to start with the fact that we use ServiceNow as our core. ServiceNow has a platform that everything that touches ServiceNow utilizes. So it's a great, great core. It's got the mapping, it's got discovery, and it doesn't have to be their discovery. It could be somebody else's. You could have SCCM. You could have whatever it is you're using populating your CMDB, but it still goes into one source of truth, the CMDB, in the platform where all these different services can be leveraged. Here's where it gets a little tricky, and I think here's where expertise from us comes into play. It's not as simple as plugging one monitoring tool into your environment and saying, there, I'm done. If you look at this graphic, you'll see all these different sources that need to be monitored, and I haven't even put the cloud in there yet, right? So you've got to monitor your cloud environment as well. All of these things need to be monitored correctly, rules need to be written, correlation needs to be done. And of course, you have to look at it from a transactional or application performance management point of view as well. So it starts becoming complicated, and it definitely takes some expertise to get through all this. This is what Alcor does with. This is just a better representation of those services, right? This is what the magic is to the ServiceNow platform. And our point of view is to leverage that and plug everything that you want to manage with. So if you go back to the monitoring, you can see I've got just some monitoring tools plugged in. If you want to talk about orchestration, which we will in a future webcast, you've got your orchestration tools plugged in. So I'd be willing to bet most of you have different tools in your environment. How many of you have a Microsoft contract? Chances are you own System Center. So leveraging those tools is going to leverage your current investments and your current knowledge base. But the real value is doing that high level, how it interacts with the business type of monitoring, which is plugging it into the platform and representing it in maps, and then taking up to the highest level the heat map. And this is just breaking it down to the topic of today, which is monitoring in the environment plugging into the platform. So I just kind of cleared the clutter out from that other slide. I think we've already gone through this. I just want to show some of our partnerships. You probably see some stuff that you have in your own environment now. We're definitely not only capable of working with these tools, we're capable of working with any tool that you have in your environment, helping you integrate it, helping you get it running. A little more of a sales pitch, but this is a differentiator for us. We're a silver partner. We have people on board that are ITOM masters, all these other processes. Everything we do is based on process and process engineering. So we don't just come in and slap tools in place. We start from a process perspective, understanding business needs, and tying this all together and making sure that you're set to get to the goals that you're trying to get to in the short term. But the bigger picture is where do you need to get at the end of this journey, and we set up a platform for that. So what do you do next? Contact us. Get somebody out there. I'd love to come out. We've got a lot of capable people. I'd love to come out, sit down, listen to what you've got going on, see what your plans are, be part of the process, and help you become a partner. That's pretty much what I had for today. I hope there are some questions. Happy to answer them.
Thanks very much, Robert. Yes, there are a few questions. I'll get to them in just a moment. As a reminder, please use the question section to ask Robert a question on today's topic. So there are a couple here that have come in. Do I need to have ServiceNow Discovery, or can I use something else like SCCM?
Yeah, so we talked about that a little bit. It really doesn't matter how the CIs get into the CMDB. Of course, it's a little cleaner if you use the discovery that comes out of the box. As a matter of fact, the mapping process calls the discovery process underneath the sheets. So there's many ways to get those maps drawn.
Okay, great. Next question. Where should a client start out?
Well, I think the starting point is get us out there and talk. There's no set starting point, right? Because everybody's at a different place in their maturity model. So it really, that's where our expertise comes in. Get us out there, let's talk. It doesn't cost anything to get me out there for an initial conversation. Love to come out and meet with you, and let's figure out what the right path for you is based on the business needs and where you are.
Okay, makes sense. What if I have multiple discovery tools in my environment?
That's actually quite fine. What ServiceNow will do is it will rationalize those different discovery tools, take the data that's unique for a single CI and populate that CMDB with it. So within reason, obviously, the more the merrier.
Okay. And this one's about monitoring. I have multiple monitoring tools. Can I still do this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually the same answer. I rarely see customers with a single monitoring tool. So I'm sure ServiceNow thought of this when they were building these tools. So it does do rationalization of events. It takes a little work. There's some effort there. It isn't an out-of-the-box functionality once you start getting into, I know customers with 10 and 15 different monitoring tools. So there's an effort there, but absolutely will work. It will work well, and I would encourage you to exploit those tools, and obviously they exist for a reason.
Great, makes sense. All right, one question to go. So just a quick reminder, anyone has any other questions, please type them into the question box. Last question here. Tell me a little about more about SLAs. I am reporting on availability now with ServiceNow, but I don't have any monitoring tools integrated.
One of my favorite topics. So what's happening is you're opening an incident in the service desk. It's going against that CI. Somebody's getting assigned work. They go do it. The problem becomes, I know I was a hands-on technician years ago, and I would get a pile of tickets. I happened to work for NASA at the time. I'd run around the base, and I'd go fix a bunch of things. I'd come in at the end of the day, and I'd then close tickets. Well, my SLA is definitely skewed by the amount of time it took me from the ticket opening to me closing it. Where automating with events, opening and closing tickets automatically when systems go up and down, actually gives you a when that service became unavailable, and once it's fixed and it comes back up and there's a correcting event going back in, now it's back up. So at the end of my period, whenever I'm doing my reporting, I actually have a real view of how I performed with keeping those applications alive and well.
Okay, good stuff. All right, well that's it for questions from the audience. So thank you very much, Robert, very informative. The recording of today's webinar will be available on our website, www.alcortech.com, and through our social networking sites. Thanks everyone for joining. See you at the next webinar.